today? That's the question on many people's lips and minds. Because 5 years ago, exactly 5 years ago, we saw something on TV that changed the course of this nation. That night, May 2011, when Four Corners on ABC aired the footage of what was really happening.
The Four Corners program left no doubt that action to suspend the live cattle trade to Indonesia was needed, and that we could do better, and that in the aftermath of this, the Export Supply Chain Assurance System, the SCAS, was introduced. But the Minister, the Liberal National Party Minister of Agriculture, Barnaby Joyce, has been a steady and masterful inactivity when it comes to enforcing animal welfare. You are the best of people. There's nothing in it financially for you to be here. The animals don't know and can't know that you do this on their behalf. But still you come. You come because you know that we can do better than this, that we can and should have an independent Office of Animal Welfare. You come rather than turn a blind eye to the abuses and cruelty that are an inevitable part of the live animal export industry. You come because you know that unless you do, it's never going to get any better. Unless you do, it's always going to be like this. The awful footage smuggled out by gutsy animal welfare investigators.
As I was actually walking here today, I walked past a group of young men mingling, and they were watching all you there getting ready to assemble for the rally, and they laughed and they joked, and then they said they think those guys can change the world. Let's show them we can. It was May the 30th, 2011, when Australians' tears turned to outrage as they watched the final moments of a trembling black droughtmaster steer named Tommy on the ABC's Four Corners program, A Bloody Business. People not only watched the once gentle creature witness his buddies butchered before his eyes, but they empathised, recognising that although different in form, animals feel fear, pain and suffering in much the same way we do. Shocked to the core that the Australian government had failed so miserably her animals, and that we as Australians were too complicit in the wanting, suffering. One of the many things that I truly believe that makes our nation great is that we can change. We can change our way of thinking and we can change our legislation. But some things in life are non-negotiable for change, and our ethics should be one of them. Anton Saint-Exupéry said, "Many people have forgotten this truth, but you must never forget it. You remain responsible forever for what you have tamed." On this day, the 28th of May 2016, I wish to remind everyone that an election is just around the corner. We have the ears to our politicians, and trust me, I know that they are listening to us. On behalf of Tommy and all his kind, please do not let their suffering, brutal deaths and loneliness be in vain. Contact them. Demand we do better. Demand an end to live animal export, if for no other reason that we can live happy, healthy and profitable lives without a live export industry. Thank you everyone so much for coming today.
This filthy live animal trade all around the world, we are increasingly being known as the anything for a buck country. Is that the legacy we want to leave for Australia? Whilst progressive nations were developing intelligent industries in science, aviation, aerospace, research, computers, engineering and clean energy, our grasping idle politicians bragged about Australia's economy riding on the sheep's back. We can no longer be a nation of factory farmers and bloody quarrymen. Sadly, we still have the squatter mentality. When I listen to the haunting chords of Waltzing Matilda, I wish the swagman had kicked the squatter's backside, chucked him into the billabong, nicked his thoroughbred and run off with Matilda. Australia would have been a wiser, kinder, richer and more sustainable land if he had. Make no mistake about it, live animal exports is not an industry, it's an atrocity. It is a vile, disgusting scam, a blot on the Australian character and culture, and it has no place in civilized society. So any politician who supports this hideous trade should hang his head in shame, apologise, or resign immediately. There is no place for him in Parliament either. Believe me, no gimmick their spin doctors can concoct will change these facts. That terrified, innocent Australian animals born on Australian soil will be dragged onto death ships, transported across thousands of miles of rough seas to the Middle East and elsewhere. They will endure grueling hardship and nauseating sickness, be imprisoned in claustrophobic steel racks, watch as thousands of their fellow victims get sick and die en route, and their bodies callously chucked overboard into the sea. And they are the lucky ones. And when our tragic Australian survivors finally arrive in these hellholes, they will be tortured. Each individual Australian animal will suffer an agonising, terrifying death at the blood-stained hands of brutal, knife-wielding strangers. It's got to go, and go it will. It's only when this barbaric trade has been confined to the garbage dump of history will we be able to truthfully say with pride in our hearts those immortal words, "Advance Australia Fair."
First of all, thank you all for coming out in what is sort of very, very uncertain weather. I greatly appreciate it. What you're doing here today is showing that the people of Geelong and the people of the Western region of Victoria have a message for those in Canberra who want to continue the live export trade, and that is that we won't stand for it anymore. We will make you pay. Friends, Monday week marks an infamous anniversary in the history of this country. It marks the anniversary of a day 5 years ago when, as a nation, we were confronted with the reality of what happens when we send our animals overseas for slaughter. Thanks to the brave efforts of Lynn White and her team, the team at Animals Australia, and the dedication of the ABC Four Corners team, we had empirical proof laid bare for us all to see of what we deep down knew what was happening, but we refused to acknowledge. We pushed it to the backs of our minds. Today, friends, we gather here in Geelong, just a couple of 100 kilometres down the road from Portland, where more of these poor, wretched souls face that same horrifying voyage. Covered in filth, faeces and urine, starved, crushed and terrified. The lucky ones won't survive the journey. Today I want to remind you of some important points. Points that I always want you to remember. I want you to remember how upset you were when you saw that footage on the ABC. I want you to remember the images that you saw and likely have now seen many times since. Remember the faces of every sheep, every cow, every animal that you have seen and loaded on those trucks heading for the ports. Eyes wide with fear, completely and utterly terrified. If you're shocked at what I'm saying, you shouldn't be. You should be hurt, you should be outraged, and you should be furious. Remember that this vile trade benefits a minority of Australia's farming community, and it's heavily subsidised by your taxpayer dollars. So despite your opposition, your hard-earned money is being used by your government to pay for an industry that disgusts you and that you fundamentally object to. The difference is that we care, and Barnaby Joyce, the Minister for Cruelty, doesn't give a damn what happens. In fact, he's bragging about it now, that we export to over 70 countries. I want you to remember that his comrade, Senator Chris Back from Western Australia, has a bill for ag-gag laws in this country. When Lynn White came back to Australia and that program was aired, Lynn White was lauded. She was praised, the bravery of what they had accomplished was broadcast around the world. If the Coalition has their way, Lynn White will be jailed tomorrow for doing exactly what she did. New South Wales has already passed this type of legislation. I ask you, are you going to let that happen here? Are we going to let this happen nationally? No, we're bloody well not. They are commodities, things to be sold. I've been asked a few questions along the way. I'll give you my answers. I've been asked, if you stop live export, do you think that will mean those animals will just be slaughtered here? Well, yes, I do. There's no denying that that will be a reality. The example is there from the New Zealand experience. Do I want to see more slaughterhouses open here, meaning more local jobs? Might be an unpopular position, I know, but no, I don't. My answer to both these questions is, whilst I accept that there will be an initial take-up of animals slaughtered in Australia, it's my sincere hope that this will drop off dramatically, and I would never like to see a new slaughterhouse open. I make no secret, ladies and gentlemen, that I am a vegan. That principle of non-violence is the reason why I am here today, and I believe that fundamentally it is the reason that you are too. You may have noticed there's an election on the horizon, so I'd like you to all do a few things for me. I want you to think back on everything I've said here today, on the reasons that you are here. I'd like you to remember that our current government wants to introduce those ag-gag laws to prevent anyone from speaking out about any cruelty in the agricultural sector. Lastly, friends, I'm now going to read you something that I want you to look up online. It's from Edgar and Prasad, and I want you to write it down. I want you to take that piece of paper and put it in your pocket or your handbag or your wallet. I want you to pull it out once a day between now and the election, and I want you to read it. Then on polling day, when you go into that little cardboard cubicle and you're about to put pencil to paper and you feel your resolve wavering, you feel that little bit of doubt and uncertainty about your choices, I want you to take it out and I want you to read it again. And it says, if I am to be a voice for animals, then how should I speak? Am I to whisper when they are screaming in pain? Am I to be calm when they tremble in fear? Am I to shout for mercy as their throats are being slit? Tell me how I need to speak for you to grant them their freedom. Read that stanza, ladies and gentlemen. Find your bravery, find your resolve once more. Speak for them